Welcome back to the Barefoot Deacon series. I'm Deacon Kelly Jensen, and today I'd like to talk about prayer. When I was going through my dark night of the soul, which lasted for about a decade, prayer got to be a really hard thing for me because it seemed as though nothing was happening when I prayed, that there wasn't a connection with anything, there wasn't much of a response to my prayers. It just felt very empty. And so I will confess that I started to pray a lot less, mostly because I just didn't really believe as much in the power of prayer. But things started to change when I made my transition and moved and decided to do my life differently and start to take actions on my own behalf. And maybe God was just looking for a little more participation from me in my prayers. I think of prayer not just as talking to God, but as a conversation. So we're actually going to do 2 episodes on this topic. Today I want to talk about prayer, and the next episode is going to be about meditation. Because like with any of your relationships, communication is very important. And there's 2 parts to communication. There's sharing what's on your mind, but also listening. And for me, praying is more about sharing what's on my mind, who's on my mind, the praying for other people, praying for situations in my life, gratitude. Those are all parts of prayer, I believe. But for me, meditation is the listening part. So we're going to talk about that in the next episode. But right now I want to talk about the actual prayer part. And a lot of people think about prayer as asking for things. And I do that as well. And when I started this transition to Austin, God really started showing up for me in ways that God had felt very absent prior to that. The fact that when I left Wisconsin, I didn't even know where I was going to live. But by the time I got to Austin the next day, I had a place to go and see, and I ended up living there for 3 months. When my time there was done and I needed an apartment, I found the apartment that was the most ideal. It was 3 blocks from work. I didn't have to deal with traffic. It was a great place to be for the first year that I was here. So God started showing up in ways like that. And one of my favorite examples is I called my best friend one night, and I'd moved into my apartment and realized how empty it feels. I'd had people and dogs around for years, and I was coming home to an empty apartment. And she said, I think you need a cat. And I was like, that's a great idea. I think that is what I need. I don't want to walk a dog when it's 110 degrees in Austin 5 times a day. A cat sounds perfect. So I went online and started looking for a cat and discovered that I can't afford a cat. I couldn't even afford a shelter cat. I couldn't afford what my apartment was going to charge me to have a cat. And so I went to bed that night and I was like, God, I'm lonely. I need something. I don't want to be dating. That's not what's in the cards for me right now. I would really like a companion of some kind. The next day, my friend's son called me and said, I have a cat for you. I heard you might like a cat, and I have one, and he's free, and he comes with all the stuff, the litter box, the food, the litter, month's supplies, everything is free. Just the owner's allergic, and can you take this cat? And I was like, yes, I can. But I still had the problem of my apartment was going to charge me $500 to have a pet. But I was still praying about it, and I hung out with another friend of mine, and she said, you have a chronic medical condition. You would qualify to have an emotional support animal, and you can register him as that, and then your apartment can't charge you. So within about a week, I had a cat with all the things, and he is still my best companion. He makes me laugh every day. He helps me sleep. He lays on me and purrs when I can't sleep. He is just, I think of him as a gift from God every time every day, really. So speak what's on your heart to God. God is listening even when it feels like God isn't. And the other thing I would say is some people feel like you have to be, because God is holy, that our prayers should be holy. And I don't think of it like that. I think of it as a conversation like you would have with a friend. I've talked to some people who, because of situations in their life, they feel a little angry with God, but they don't feel like they can tell God that. I think God is big enough to handle it. I think you just need to be honest. Just say what's on your heart. You don't need fancy words. You don't need a fancy format. Just speak to God like you would to your best friend, because that's what the divine is. It's your best friend. And just in case you'd want to see, here's my friend. His name's Copper, and he's such a great gift to me. So I hope you'll take this into consideration and just talk to your best friend every day. God is listening. And then next time we'll talk about how we listen to God. So thanks for tuning in. I'll see you next time.